Hello everyone, welcome back to the Flicks Files. So for this video, I thought I'd dip into my collection again and dig out some movies to quickly talk about. And I thought I would concentrate on a director and the films that I have by this director. Now this chap is one of my absolute best film directors. He's probably in my top 5. So he's in the ranks of Stanley Kubrick, Steven Spielberg, David Lynch, David Lean. So he's in some real top class company. And I think his body of work, certainly his earlier work, they're all outstanding. And I've got 6 movies of his here. And I know that he's done other work. He's done a number of, I think he's directed 13 feature films in total. But I kind of have his first 6. So these are the ones that I want to quickly talk about. I have seen most of his newer movies, but I always preferred his earlier work because a lot of them were kind of rooted in science fiction and fantasy, and they just appealed to me by the very nature of what kind of movies they were. Science fiction, I've always said, is my absolute favourite genre, followed by a very close second with fantasy. So these are some terrific movies, and I would hope that you've all seen these 6 films that I'm going to quickly talk about. But if there are any of these 6 that you haven't seen, then I would highly recommend that you find a copy from somewhere and watch it, because I'm sure you will absolutely love it. And one of these movies I'm going to be doing a deep dive about on my very next video. So if that's piqued your interest, once you see what these 6 movies are and you want to see which one I'm going to be talking about, then if you subscribe to my channel and ring that little bell thing, it will send you a notification when that video goes live. So let's get to it. As always, I'll film some little B-roll footage of the boxes so you can get a closer look at the artwork and things. So the first movie, in fact, I really should tell you who I'm talking about, shouldn't I? So the director is Terry Gilliam. Terry Gilliam was famous for being part of the Monty Python group during the very late 60s and through the 70s into the 80s. And he was kind of responsible mainly for the animation interludes that they used to put into the episodes when it was a TV series. And he co-directed the very first Monty Python movie with a fellow Monty Python, Terry Jones. And that's the first movie I want to talk about. It's from 1974, and it's Monty Python and the Holy Grail. And this is possibly one of the funniest films ever made, along with the likes of Blazing Saddles and Young Frankenstein. An Airplane, the original Airplane, I consider that an absolute classic in comedy. But it's interesting that he co-directed it with Terry Jones, and I would like to think that you can see which sequences Terry Gilliam had a bigger hand in, shall we say. And I would certainly put the Black Knight sequence as one of those. And also the sequence where they're trying to cross the bridge and they have to answer a question. And yeah, I definitely think I can see Terry Gilliam's influence in that movie. But this must be one of the most often quoted films in the history of motion pictures. There are so many quotable lines in this. It's absolutely hilarious. I know a lot of people rate Life of Brian as the best Monty Python movie. And I've got them all. I've got Monty Python and the Life of Brian, and I've got The Meaning of Life on Blu-ray as well. but this one is my favorite. And I think it's my favorite because it's just the setting. I've always kind of liked the Arthur legend and anything involving knights in armor and things like that. So it appeals to me sort of on an aesthetic level. But I also think it's the funniest, to be honest. Life of Brian is hilarious, and The Meaning of Life has its moments, but this is by far the funniest for me. So that's my first Terry Gilliam movie. The second one is from 1981, and it's called Time Bandits. And this is just a bloody classic. And I've loved this movie ever since it came out. I think it came out in 81 and I first saw it in 82. Because I was at a friend's house, a school friend's house, and they rented a copy. And we sat and watched it one afternoon and we both loved it. And I think one of the things about watching that film at that time was we were pretty much the same age as the main protagonist in the movie, Kevin. I think he's meant to be like an 11, 12-year-old. So we very much connected with it on that level. But this is such an inventive and exciting movie, and such a cracking idea for a film as well. And this was the movie that really put Terry Gilliam on my radar. And I wanted to be aware of what his next movie was going to be because I wanted to watch it. So a cracking film, and the Blu-ray of it is by Arrow, and as we all know, Arrow do some outstanding Blu-ray releases, and this is no exception. It's got a remastered transfer that was approved by Terry Gilliam, and it has a wealth of extras. So I'd really recommend picking this up. This has actually since got a 4K release since I bought this, and it's on my list of possible upgrades. So if anyone out there does have the 4K of Time Bandits, perhaps you can just let me know if it's worth an upgrade, if the picture quality is a real uptick, because I'd be very interested to upgrade. Now then, the next film. So I think at this point, Terry Gilliam, he also directed Jabberwocky between Holy Grail and Time Bandits, but I don't have that. But his next film after Time Bandits is an absolute favorite of mine. In fact, if you watch the very first video I ever uploaded on this channel, which I did last July, I talked about my top 15 movies of all time. And this film is in that top 15. It may even be in my top 10 because I think it's amazing. And it's called Brazil from 1985. It stars Jonathan Pryce, and it has a number of big stars in it in smaller roles. The likes of Robert De Niro and Bob Hoskins appear in it as well in very funny cameos. But this is just an absolutely fantastic sort of Orwellian, dystopian, futuristic tale about a chap that's kind of working as a very dull, dead-end job that falls in love with a total stranger that he sees. And the whole movie is mainly about him trying to get in contact with this woman that he's seen, that he's in love with. And around that is a fable about bureaucracy and just the industrial era impacting on, a contemporary world that's slightly off kilter. It's a very unique and strangely beautiful movie, Brazil. And if you need to get an idea of what I'm talking about, you only need to look at the computers that they use in this movie, because the computers are kind of a very steampunky, bizarre fusion of like a typewriter with a small black and white screen with a huge sort of Fresnel lens stuck in front of it to magnify it. Very bizarre looking. But the whole movie's kind of got that feel to it. And it has a very checkered history with its release, Brazil, which I won't go into here, but it's worth reading up on it if you have an interest in that kind of thing. Suffice to say that the studio didn't really know how to market this movie, and they re-edited it without Gilliam's approval, and he hated it. And he took out a full-page ad in, I think it was Variety. It was a very big publication, and he kind of brought the studio to the attention of the public and berated them and was basically saying, when are you going to release my version, the better version of Brazil? Well, that's the version we have on this Blu-ray, and it's just a fantastic movie. It never gets old. It's one of those films like the original Alien that's timeless. There's nothing about it other than actors that you know that look younger, that give away when it was made, if that makes sense. It's just timeless, and it's a superb movie. So after that, we get on to, I think this was released in 1988 or 89, I want to say, and it's The Adventures of Baron Munchausen. This is very famous as being one of the biggest flops of all time when you when you compare its budget to what it made at the box office. This is one of the biggest losers of all time. And I kind of feel sorry for Gilliam with this film, because this is a terrific movie, and I will defend this to my dying breath. And there are many, many sequences in this movie that are just delightful and very inventive and really show the kind of things that Gilliam was fantastic at when he had the talent around him and the money to make his vision possible and to put it up there on the screen. And yeah, this is just an absolutely superb movie. And again, this has since had a 4K release since I bought the Blu-ray. So again, if you have this on 4K, if it's worth an upgrade, let me know. The next one is Gilliam's first kind of foray into being a sort of director for hire. I think this was the first film he made that wasn't from one of his own scripts. I'm sure that's correct. And it's called The Fisher King from 1991, starring Robin Williams and Jeff Bridges. And again, when I first watched this, it kind of threw me a little bit, because there were times you sort of forget that you're watching a Gilliam movie. And I kind of hated it for that back in the day. But as it gets nearer towards the end of the film, the glimpses of the old Gilliam start to appear in the images that are up on the screen, and then it won me over. And over the years, as I've got older, I've just learned to just totally be in love with this film. And the both of the main stars, Robin Williams and Jeff Bridges, are absolutely fantastic. The basic story is that Jeff Bridges is a DJ, and he makes a sort of innocuous comment on the radio that somebody misinterprets and goes out and does a mass shooting. So as a result, his radio show sort of gets cancelled, and he kind of falls on hard times. And so he opens up a little video shop with his girlfriend. And it's there that he stumbles across Robin Williams, who plays a homeless character. And it's sort of the bond that they build together. They're from these sort of diverse backgrounds, but they start to develop this bond. And it's just a lovely, beautiful movie with a lot of heart in it. And I'd highly recommend it. This is the Criterion edition that I've got. And again, I think this also has been upgraded to 4K since I bought it. So I really need to get these upgraded, to be honest, because they're all worthy of it, I'm sure. So the last Gilliam movie that I have is 12 Monkeys. And I think this was about 1995. Bruce Willis, Madeline Stowe and Brad Pitt is in this in a smaller role. A very inventive kind of time travel story this is. So it's more heavily science fiction than it is fantasy. But again, there are some terrific strokes of Gilliam in this, in terms of the design of it. And it's just such an interesting story. It's a real kind of, if it was a book, you'd call it a real page turner. You just want to see what happens next. And again, this is an Arrow release, so it's a terrific picture with tons of extras. You can never say anything bad about Arrow releases. They're always absolutely amazing. So yeah, I really recommend that. So they are my 6 Terry Gilliam movies. If there are more Gilliam movies that he's made that you think I should own on physical media, then please do let me know. As I say, I've seen most of his more modern films. There's a few I haven't, but I still think after 12 Monkeys is where he started to go off the rails a little bit. I think the only one of his newer movies that I have considered buying is Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas. the movie about Hunter S. Thompson with Johnny Depp. That's one that I have got on my radar. Yeah, so there we go. As I say, I'm going to pick out one of these movies to do a deep dive on it as my next video. For the sake of surprise, I'm not going to tell you what that is here. You'll have to wait. Suffice to say that every one of the 6 that I own, I love. So it would be very easy of me to just pick one of these at random and make a nice video about it. So I hope you tune in for that when it goes live. So there we are, guys. A nice quick video for today. I hope you enjoyed that. If you did, give me a thumbs up, and I will see you soon. Bye for now.